Hello everybody and welcome to the Stellaris how-to guide. Welcome back. If you haven't already checked out the first episode I did, I strongly suggest checking that out so you can understand what the UI is all about. We're going to go into a little bit more detail about some of the things we didn't cover in the last one and some tips and tricks as well along the way on how to set yourself up with a good start and hopefully you can progress somewhere. One thing to note is that obviously your gameplay style will determine what you do, so don't base everything that I do on your game. You want to base the ideas and the hints and tips and take what you can from what I'm about to go through, but don't actually follow it because you're just going to be copying my gameplay style, and then when you come to the later game you'll end up struggling because you won't understand what you're actually trying to achieve. So the first tip is to work out what you want to achieve and how you want to achieve it. You can do it in so many ways in this game. The best kind of in-depth gameplay style you can do is copying what your actual race does. Now obviously we've got the United Nations of Earth. They have their own traits, research their traits, find out what their strengths and weaknesses are and play them strengths and weaknesses as an actual role-playing style type strategy game. The good thing about Stellaris is it hosts a very good role-playing strategy game. So that's probably the first suggestion I'd make is having to think about that. If you have a race that you don't really understand, or if you want to create your own race, I'd strongly suggest playing the game through a few times first before you go into that. However, there's nothing to say you can't develop your own now. Give it a shot. You know, if you want to do that, that's absolutely fine. But your understanding of races and stuff like that will be a lot better as you start to progress within the game. So with that in mind, we're going to play a very loose gameplay style. I'm going to build up my fleet. I've got a few issues on this game run through already, which I'll go through with you. I've got a couple of planets that I've already started. I'll go through the planet, kind of what to do on it, how to develop it and such and so forth. Remember our previous tip, keeping ourselves underneath our capacities. Not necessarily going to stick to that as our Empire scroll is already at maximum. We've increased it by using a, where are we? That's not what I want. Tradition in expansion, courier networks. We've increased it there. There's plenty of other ways you can do that there as well, and there's research as well that'll help that. There's also like buildings you can put on your Starbases, your modules, that'll improve on that as well. So these are things to bear in mind. And one thing I would suggest is your shipyards. I wouldn't necessarily worry too much about putting shipyards on all of them. You're just going to end up taking modules up. So let's cover a little bit more about the Starbases whilst we're on it. Obviously, things like anchorages, if you're going to hold a fleet in that area, they're brilliant for doing that. My gameplay style, I tend to just hammer them up with batteries and put some defensive platforms on there as well, such as here, and then I'll hold them that way. You've got all these here which are what will help you out as well. Take a look at each one, you know what each one does, what you want it to do. You know, if you're going to collect loads of resources, get a silo down on there. If you're going to be going more tactical, then you want something like these here. The curator think tank's pretty cool. That increases your research massively, and obviously trade as well for an off-road trading company is pretty decent as well. So have a think about what you want it to do. My strong suggestion is if it's on a front like it is here. Well, we've got these choke points here. These choke points are very, very important. They stop the enemy from spreading into your territory and trying to attack you. Then I strongly suggest using these as your heavily defended space stations. Get them upgraded with missile and gun batteries, and because they're going to take the first hit. Because if you've got a number of fleets, sometimes you can't get them into an area, and sometimes your fleet's spread between two different areas or more. So that space station needs to take a battery in before you can get to it, and rather a space station than your fleet as well, because your fleet is mobile, a space station just stands there. So with that in mind, if you're doing fleets, and if you're building your fleets up more than you are anything else, I'd strongly suggest anyway, whether you are or not, holding more than one fleet. When you start to get bigger and your empire gets bigger, you're going to struggle to get your fleets to the areas that you need them to when attacking. If you've got one fleet in an area where there's an enemy and you've got another fleet on the other side, that first fleet may be able to hold itself with a starbase until your second fleet can arrive, or at least your second fleet can get nearby, so if it does defeat them, then you've got a weaker force to attack. And 9 times out of 10 the AI will actually pull their fleet back if you do enough damage to them, so it's worthwhile noting that. So we're starting off here. What is it we want to be doing now? Well, we've talked about doing the star bases for our defense here. We've talked about getting some fleets up because we're struggling for expansion now, because we've got a fallen race here. Now they're going to be hard to take out because they're going to have a massive space station in that area, and they've actually cut us off, so we're going to struggle to develop anywhere in that area. So we've really only got this area here to play with, which isn't an issue. It's not a problem whatsoever. We can expand later. We can use the area we've got now to develop and get ourselves set up and ready to go. You know, we can hold this area quite well. Another choke point there with another space station, so we really need to look at where we want to put a choke point here. Now these guys are spreading, but because I've done my survey with our space science ships, all of this area here is surveyed, so it's a lot easier for me to send a construction ship onto any of these, and I can set them to build a starbase. That's one thing I will offer an advice on, is get 2 or more science vessels and get them auto exploring as soon as you can, or just manually explore, you know, shift and clicking like I show on the first episode. Get them out there, get them researching, because it's much easier then to drop a space station on a area that you have explored, rather than trying to fight off an AI for surveying it and then trying to get a space station on there. It goes to whoever builds the first space station on it, so if you're both building it at the same time, whoever's quicker gets it. So another thing to note out. Another thing as well is, depending on your gameplay style, is depending on how many planets you want. At the moment I've got 2 and I'm quite content with the 2 because they will give us enough resources to keep us going. So again, looking at your gameplay style, do you want to have more planets? If you do, then you need to make sure you're on top of your planets. You want to set them all up to different things. So if you want, you know, one of them to be highly researched, you want one of them to be highly alloyed, you know, it's easier specialising your planet to do a certain thing, because you can tailor your work staff along that and your buildings along that as well, which will make it a lot easier for you later down the line. On the topic of your planet development, they've upgraded the screen now. It's a lot clearer, you can see it a lot better. It tells you how many you've got blocked. Your little areas there, the ones with the reds in, are blocked at the moment. Districts, there's 4 districts now, which is nice and clear, laid out, perfect. Your buildings is exactly the same, but they've put these little icons on it. It's just easier to see. It tells you what you're producing and what you're in a deficit. I got there in the end. So we've got a deficit on our minerals, which is expected because we've got 2 alloy foundries here. Not a problem, I have no issues with that. As a matter of fact, we're using it up on here as well. We've got plenty to sustain that, so I'm not worried. One thing I will note is that you want to develop your planets as they go. So whilst you're playing, it will pop up little icons here, and it'll tell you what the icons are, so you can see what they are. It's usually unemployment or no housing, or there's a build space available. Just because there's a build space available, do not build on it. Wait until you have unemployment and then build a building on it. If you don't, if you build everything up as maximum as you can, what it will do is it will specialise the population into these areas here, because these are your bigger, your more specialised, your more dependent buildings, and the ones you need as well. So what it will do is, if you built 4 alloy foundries here, it will take from the mining district and improve them to work in the alloy foundries. Good for you for alloys, you'll make loads of alloys, but then you'll dive off. You'll stop producing alloys because you'll run out of minerals. Because what it does is it obviously takes minerals for its upkeep, so it converts one to the other, but you also leave a void in the mining district, which reduces how much minerals you're producing on that planet. Now, if you've got a mass surplus of minerals where you're producing like over 100 or anything like that, then by all means develop more. But just bear in mind that things affect it, like your Empire Sprawl, you know, going over any of these capacities, it will drop this. and you can find yourself bleeding minerals fast, and then you end up having to disable, demolish, or something like that. You're gonna have to lose that building, and that's costing you in the long run. It might not be much, but it's enough to slow down production. So bear that in mind. Alpha Centauri should be one which has plenty of districts, absolutely loads of districts there, but I've not built any of them. I can build on any of them if I want to. If I want one of them, I can build it nice and easy, but it's not serving me any purpose. There's no available, no available population to work in that area, so it's just going to end up just sitting there for nothing, and it's going to cost me an upkeep. Rather have that in my bank so I can build more fleet than waste my money on that. In the process of building fleets, if you haven't already checked out the ship design episode, make sure you do. That'll give you an idea on some of the designs that we're going to be using and how to better place your fleets. And sometimes not necessarily having a more powerful fleet can sometimes help you. So just bear that in mind. Make sure you check out that episode. It's a pretty decent idea on your building of your fleets. So we've got an idea now on what we're doing in terms of building ourselves up, getting ourselves ready, and we've kind of got where we want in choke points on the top end. It's just the bottom area here where we're lacking, where there's this fallen empire here, which is going to be a problem because they're going to spread rapidly. So we need to think about what we're going to do. Now, you need to play your game along your empire. So if your empire is warlike, it's going to fare well against xenophobes, anything like that. It's going to fare well against stuff like that. So what I strongly suggest you do is just play it how your race is played. Role play the race. And for us, we're a bit average, which is good for us. If you want a diplomacy, then you can be diplomatic. You can also be a negative diplomatic. You can force your way through taking places, taking claims and stuff like that. You don't necessarily have to go to war. 9 times out of 10, if you're going to do something like that, they will push you to go to war. But let's have a look a little bit more in detail. Now, one of the things that I didn't touch on is traditions. Traditions is something you need to do for your kind of style. Don't follow somebody else's style. Each one has its own special little area, and it's got its own extension perks. There are certain things you can say, oh yeah, this does do better than the other one. But at the end of the day, it's what's better for you. If you're going to go in an all-out war, then you're going to need supremacy. I want to do expansion. I want to allow myself to expand bigger and not take these costs. So I've gone for expansion and discovery. There's plenty more. What I suggest you do is get into the game, hit the pause button, read through each one for the first time, see how it affects your game, and then go for one that you want to do. The other thing that we want to look at is this kind of area here. Now, we haven't talked about this in the UI or talk about on the first episode because there's a lot in here that needs to be covered, and we won't cover it all today. We've already discussed the fleet manager.
We can create templates for our military fleets.
Okay, he's given us a little outline. I'd strongly suggest you keep the AI on. I've kept him on just so he pops up so you can see what he's all about. He's worthwhile having on because as you can see, as soon as you click on something, he'll tell you about it. Now, I did say we've covered this. We haven't. We've covered the fleet design with Ship Designer. This is one we covered, doing designs for our ships. Our fleet manager allows us to look at each fleet, so you can create new fleets, and you can create designs to it, so you can actually make yourself a template for your fleet. Then all you do is fill the template. We can upgrade. Excellent. You can also reinforce, which means it'll put them all back up to full capacity by the nearest shipyards. Now that's a really good thing to do, and you can do it from here as well. You can have it where it says reinforce here, upgrade fleet, and repair fleet, reinforce fleet. There it is. If you're out and about, what it'll do is nearest Starbase is with a shipyard, it'll build it and upgrade your fleet. It's great.
Knowledge is the key to the universe.
Aha, more technology.
System survey concluded.
Keep your technology going. Well, actually, that's probably not the best advice to do. You don't need to worry about keeping your technology going because it actually mounts up. So if I leave that, it will continue producing research, and it'll actually take it off the requirements for these. What have we got here? Oh, I like. Oh, that's plasteel armor. So probably not the best advice. Actually, you don't need to worry too much. Have a think about what research you want to do. That's the main thing. What is it you're going to be going for? If you want to be a, an all-round attacker, then you want to have your lasers up, you want to have your kinetic weapons up, all of them things you want to have up. So again, your gameplay style depends on what research you're going to do. Okay, so we're building a fleet. I've already set a fleet to go. Easy done. Hit your soul station. You can hit that little white icon there, which is the actual Starbase. Go to our shipyard, and I've just queued up our new designs here, which is the ones we did on the last episode. As I say, if you haven't already checked that out, make sure you do check it out. We're just building our fleet up. Look at that, it's already getting strong. And what that does is, if you go to your contacts here, you'll see that our relative power, now previously, our relative power was all overwhelming. Which means that when they come to do diplomacy with you, they know they're stronger than you, and they will threaten you. And you've got no leg to stand on, so you'll find it really hard to try and get in. Now that we're starting to lower it down, see their fleet power is overwhelming compared to ours. So we need to get our fleet up. Once you start getting this where you're better and stronger than them, then you can start making demands. And they tend to stick with things like that. Situation log. Now this is something that I overlooked myself, but it's brilliant when you start off with, because it gives you like little missions and stuff like that. What you can do is you can go to your situation log and
System survey concluded.
have a look at what you need to do. Some of them will
Construction completed.
where you just research. Some of them will require a ship, one science ship in orbit. Another way you can do it is if you click on a science ship, you should get these little icons here, and that's that there. You can actually then click on, where's my science vessel gone? You can actually click on the area that it's in. I can't with that one because he's got no leader. I've not bothered with a new leader for that because we've only got one more to do anyway. There we go. Oh, sorry. They've actually got no route to get there because they've locked us off here. So until we get the experimental substation navigation, they're lost to us. Oh, new contact. Okay, wormhole has just appeared from nowhere. And we'll just put another starbase there for that area. Now these are rapidly expanding, so we need to think about stopping them sooner rather than later. Now they will just haul up to your area, but they've now locked us off from that area there. So that space station is completely independent to itself. If they continue up here, then we need to start
Ship upgrades
blocking
applied.
them off. Okay, so we've got ourselves a little bit of a fleet. And we can already upgrade the fleet. We'll assign a leader. Okay, we got ourselves a leader, and we can continue upgrading the fleet, so we'll just upgrade them there. And it's a small fleet, but it should serve us a little purpose, hopefully.
Ship upgrades applied.
So what we can do is we can... See, we don't want to coast over these because they will attack you, and we've got nothing to defend ourselves with. Sol is literally the first port of call. That being said, we can actually use Sol as a choke point. So we can actually build some defense platforms. So we'll probably, we'll chuck a couple of defense platforms on each one, and hopefully that'll hold. Okay, so as earlier mentioned, and I was hoping it would do it, is we've got our little icons here now, and it tells us what we can do. So we've got unemployed population, we can upgrade our capital, and we've got building slots available. This is ideal for us because we can now choose, well, shall we put a mining district, because we've got deficit on the mining. So we can build one, and that'll increase our production and decrease our deficit. We have got a lot of minerals being produced, so I'm actually going to cancel that, not worry about that, and look at what we want to do. So we can do commercial zone, which will increase our amenities. Ooh, entertainment. That might be good for us. More food. So we want to look at these here, what we're short on. We're not doing too bad on everything, so let's have a look, shall we? Let's get ourselves a hollow theatre. Or do we want that there? So that'll do. Trade. Oh, actually, we'll do commercial zones. So that'll increase on all the things we needed it to do, which is good for us. And then we can upgrade our capital building.
Construction completed.
So they'll go ahead and do that. And then that little icon will disappear as well. Okay. So mining stations and mining stations. Keeping your area developed as best you can, so you're in a strong position. Now these here, with the amount that they're spreading, they are going to continue. So we need to develop. So that's the first hint, is keep an eye out what the enemy is doing. These are all AIs, so they're predictable. Okay, we have another tradition available, and I'll increase my population growth. Gives me another ascension perk.
perks list shows the ascension perks that.
So we'll have a look into that and see what we want to do. And it shows what's up. Oh, it shows us the unavailable ones. Okay, let's have a look what we got. So we can do Starbase capacity increased by 5. That's pretty decent. Clear block, of course. Administrative capacity. So I'm going to go for that because it increases my Empire Sprawl. So we can spread more now, which will increase our Starbase capacity anyway. We've had our leader die. Create a new leader. Let's have a look what we've got. Leader experience. Oh, that's good there. We'll have that one there. Okay, so we've got ourselves into certain readiness for moving forward. These are just the basic things to start off with and to bear in mind. We've got, oh look at that. We've got a large area that we've already scouted out of here and that we've got contacts for. And we've still got a lot of things to cover here.
Via the market screen, we can buy.
He's going to talk through all of them, so I'll take them off for a moment. Back to what I was saying about the situation log. These sometimes give you a lot of boosts on things. It can also give you like missing ships that'll appear for you, mining colonies that'll appear for you. That gives you a little boost. So they're worthwhile doing. So keep them in mind. The translate alien mural is a good one to have as well. You get some other various ones like that, and sometimes they give you like all factories and stuff, which is really good. You'll have certain things like investigate, like this one, Hypos. These will allow you to communicate with new aliens, which will expand on your contacts, which is worthwhile doing. After a while they do it anyway, so they'll unlock it. So if you don't want to worry about that too much, then they'll do it for you and you can talk to them anyway. But that's it for the situation log. And that's where I'm going to leave this episode, because I want to talk next on the next episode a lot about more of this.
Research concluded.
Okay, more research done. What have we got? Oh, research alternatives. That's actually really good to have, because at the moment we've got 4. It gives us an extra 5th one, and sometimes you get some of the higher leveled ones, which is good. So I'm actually going to do that. Okay, so as mentioned, I'm going to leave it here for now. We've got ourselves set up. We've got our planets going. We know what we're doing with our planets. We've cleared all the areas here, putting all the mining things on, which you should be doing. We've got our choke points with the space stations here that we can do, using Sol as one for here for now, until we do expand. We're aware of what the enemy are doing, which is worthwhile keeping in a note. And we've got a general idea of what we want to do. You know, we're going to expand by taking over the enemy, basically, because that's the only option that's left to us. We've got our fleet increased, which stops piracy and also allows us to respond to small attacks at the moment. Not the strongest fleet in the world, so we'll probably build a little bit more, because that is quite a small fleet. So we'll probably put some destroyers in there to hopefully help our fleet survive. So yeah, we're set and good to go, ready for the next phase.
System survey concluded.
Thank you for that. So that's it for this episode. Make sure you tune in for the next one, where I'm going to discuss more about these little things here and how they're going to help us. I don't know if I can do
The
that.
planets and sectors
No,
screen.
I can't do that one just yet. So we'll explain that when we do get another sector. But for now, that is all for me. Make sure you tune in on the next one if you have enjoyed this one. Lots more hints and tips coming your way. If you have any ideas, questions, or anything like that, make sure you leave them in the comment section. You know,
Construction
there
completed.
might be things that I've missed or things that you don't understand. Just make sure you send them through, and I will give you some feedback myself directly, or I'll give you another video put up earlier rather than later, covering that kind of thing. So make sure you do. I do look at all our comments and stuff like that. If you're enjoying the series so far, make sure you hit that subscribe button to let me know you are doing, and hit the bell notification so you can find out more of what I'm doing and more of these episodes. Until next time, everybody, take care for now. Bye bye.